Hey there, thanks for tuning in to our feature teacher jam session. Conversations grounded in highlighting the greatest tools in our toolbox, educators and youth advocates, fired up with art, skill, and will. I'm Jay Dion, and after many years as a teacher, administrator, and instructional coach, no matter what age you rock with, what content you're passionate about, what population you serve, I'm curious where we can reinvite creativity back into the work, what it looks like to centralize interactions as foundational to language, character, and content development, and how we can leverage the autonomy of fantastic educators doing this work worth doing. The Learning Riot is a movement committed to championing, challenging, and supporting teachers as you build rigorous and responsive learning communities where language, executive function skills, and critical stewardship are developed. Stoked to have you join the riot, you little rascal. Let's jump in. Well, Kristina Lewis. This is exciting. This is kind of like a dream come true. I am Jay Dion, and this is Kristina Lewis. I am an instructional coach in Southern Maine, and I'm all about developing really great practice, instructional practice, so that kids are developing their language, are developing executive skills, are co-carrying the lift of the work in the classroom, and brought somebody in badass today, who is an educator, and is a multiple career kind of. We'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, but running a kick butt classroom where she is very real deal, and sort of, what did I write? Like hungry, just constantly hungry for more. Like bring game, bring skills, always hungry for more, and just badass, like I said. So Kristina Lewis, without any further adieu,
Mhm.
welcome to the very first show
So
of us talking
exciting.
about teaching. It's cool, right?
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So I kind of wanted to just dive right in, if that's okay.
Makes sense.
I gave you the questions. For those, if anybody's listening, like I'm going to kind of talk about process as content sometimes, like through this experience. So I like to provide, Christina recommends that I provide her whatever I'm going to do, whether it's a PD, a slideshow, or whatever it is, that she gets it a little bit in advance so that she can kind of take that in beforehand. So I shared the questions. I think I won't do that. I'll ask everybody like I did with you yesterday. Like,
Yeah.
do you want them? Do you not want them?
Yeah.
And then you get to decide that. So
And I think that's great to give folks the choice because I think some people it would make them more anxious,
yeah, yeah.
to be thinking about the questions and trying to formulate answers. Whereas me, I really don't love being put on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So having them ahead of time also allows me to kind of like think about the questions, look things up when I need to, and get clarification and
Yep.
feel more prepared.
Yep. So before we even get to our first question, since you've already walked me into wanting to ask a question, so not to the script. Um, so and we're real deal here. So
Mhm.
knowing how much you like to do a kick butt job, I'm not going to say perfect, but there is
No.
a perfectionism
Oh, yeah,
esque experience.
for sure.
How do we? So my nervousness in sharing the questions beforehand and having it be something that somebody can really, really script down and get it perfect
Mhm.
is that there it loses a sense of kind of in the nowness,
Yes.
and that it kind of it doesn't model like, hey, imperfection is actually a great answer as well.
Yes.
So I guess for you yourself, or let's say if you have a kid who's really really needing anxiety to be minimized, or
Yeah.
is needing certain things to be a very specific way, um how do you know when to push them, how to kind of respect where they're at and when to push them into
I
that discomforting place?
I think you have to play with it and see what happens because you don't always know. And I've definitely gotten kicked in the face before of like, pushing a kid,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is the third day you don't want to do this, or this
Mm-hmm.
is the third day that you're asking for the extension, or the third day that you're asking for all these answers before you're actually doing the work.
Yep. Yep.
And pushing them to be like, no, you need to put in this effort. You need to feel what it feels like to be unprepared, and
Mm.
you need to feel what it feels like to be put on the spot. And a lot of times it goes well, but there are certainly times where you just have a kid that melts into a puddle, or you have a kid that gets really angry. And I think you have to feel it out. And I think, one of the things that we've talked about 100 times, and I think the educational world is talking about a lot right now, is relationships. And I think even falling on your face
Yeah.
in that situation is relationship building, and
Okay.
how you choose to deal with that, let's call it a failure in the moment, how you choose to deal with that student, that's what's going to be the game changer about the relationship with that
And
kid.
they're going to now be more willing to take risk as a result of what happens, and the fact that
Mhm.
you're not turning away and that you're with them. You're not going to do it for them,
Nope.
but you're going to stand next to them as they figure out how to get themselves up.
Yep.
Whereas I think I would want to have built a moment of a relationship. We're not like the best of friends.
Right.
Actually, I don't even advocate being the best of friends with
With
students.
students, right?
But we don't know each other really well. But I
Mhm.
would like I wouldn't have the very first thing I do with students be a really risky something. Like I would make sure there's like a teensy bit of money put into the bank,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
yeah,
Right.
really cool.
Yeah. Okay.
First question.
Here we go.
First question here. So, and this is inside or outside of the classroom. What's something you're really proud of?
I had to think about this, um, as I do most things. But I am really, really proud of the home that I have built. I'm really proud of the safety
Mm,
that it has created, that my husband and I have created in the home that we have.
yeah.
The safety for both of us, and the safety for our kids. And I have friends that tell me when they come to my house that it's
Mm,
a place of safety for them too.
mm-hmm.
And I'm really, really, really proud of that. Safety is so important
Mm-hmm.
in environments. And I strive for that in my classroom,
Yep.
strive for that in my life. And it's a great basis, it's a great foundation from which to work through great things and challenging things.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, you yeah, when you first said home, I was thinking in my head like literal or metaphorical, and it sounds like both, but almost more so metaphorical. Of course, the literal
Yeah.
and the building of the home and the feel of that, the colors, the choices, the
Mhm.
fabrics, all that kind of stuff. Plus, I've been to your home, so I mean, you and your partner are like in it and doing really like you are project,
The time.
and building it so cool. And I like that you brought it back to the classroom too, because I was in a recent class I was introducing the students to the idea of the brain and getting us to that oxytocic space,
Mhm.
and how getting them through that sort of those gatekeepers, those safety gatekeepers, allows for so much more learning, loving, comfort, like all those things to happen.
Yeah.
And then you can challenge all you want to,
Yep.
as long as the kid feels like I'm not going to actually be harmed or
Or even the
be
perception of
ridiculed or
harm.
being any of those things
Yeah.
are going to spike the amygdala. Like none of that's going to happen. I can be challenged though.
Or maybe it is going to happen,
Mm,
but you know that that environment is safe enough that it can happen,
yep.
and you can have a moment of amygdala hijack, reactive, a little maybe out
Yep.
of control moment, and there's still going to be grace there to help you get back into your thinking brain.
Mm-hmm.
And
And you actually have to step into that slight dysregulation space where the amygdala is on, like is sort of heading toward flipping to actually build the skill, because otherwise
exactly.
it's all kind of academic or
Yep.
theory, right? Like you
Yep.
have to put it in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So second question, looking back, so this is kind of going the opposite because I think it's really, really important
Mhm.
for us to talk about the pros and the cons, or the goods and the bads, but not even think of them as goods and
Good and
bad.
bads, just
But when you look back, so we just talked about something you're really proud of.
mhm.
Looking back at your practice, what's something you're so not proud of? And not that you're necessarily ashamed or embarrassed of it, but
Right.
that you, like, if you were given the chance to do it over, you'd do it differently.
Mhm.
And that could be inside or outside the classroom.
Um, the one that I really thought about was, um, in the beginning of teaching and even just life in general, not asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I could go back and change probably the first 4 or 5 maybe years of my teaching, I think I would focus a little bit more on asking for help,
Mm.
asking for grace, not trying to do
Mhm.
everything all the time for everyone, and leaving so depleted.
Yeah.
And I think we say that, we say that to new teachers, like,
Yep.
it's gonna be hanging on from the cliff by your fingernails for the first 3 years. You just
Welcome.
gotta, yeah, you just gotta hang
This,
on.
by the way, is not a beer, just in case. It's a Maine Root. I probably shouldn't brand it, but maybe they'll want to sponsor me
They're
eventually.
delicious.
Maine Root ginger beer, amazing.
They do
That's what
make a
this is.
delicious cocktail as well, but that's not what we're doing today.
Okay.
But I think, we say that to teachers, like the first 3 years or the first 5 years, and then you're gonna,
Mm.
then you're gonna blossom, and then you're gonna feel like you really know what you're doing. But I don't think that we put the supports in place
No, we don't.
to say,
Not genuine. Like
not
really, what are the
not real
structures
deal.
in place?
Like,
Yeah.
we tell them it's gonna be hard. We tell them,
Mhm.
oh, reach out for help. But
Right.
as a new teacher in particular, I think in vocational education, because we're not traditionally trained,
Mhm.
I remember like going to my first couple days of training and them talking about pedagogy, and I'm still not clear 12 years in what that word really means. I think it has to do with like teacher speak, but you're first to even be able to think like, oh, I can actually ask, what does that mean?
Yep. I'm
Like
not
something,
stupid. Like, I
right,
do not know what that phrase means. And by the way, I've never been exposed to it. So why would I know what that phrase means?
right.
And in education, and actually probably in nursing in the medical
Mhm.
field, you have chosen two fields that are really crazy with acronyms and very like hospital edu speak. Like,
Mhm.
so it's a steep curve coming
Yeah.
into those. But we need to do a better job of not assuming that
Mhm.
everybody coming in has access to those words. By the way, definitely, I think teachers edu speak. I think pedagogy is an edu speak term. Pedagogy really is the rationale, the reason behind the why of your teaching. Like, so I might say the workshop model is I do, we do, you do. So I'm sharing with you the pedagogy of my practice is like the why behind what I'm doing of
Okay.
the structure. So pedagogy is kind of like the reason, the rationale
Okay.
behind. Oh, this is not about the why yet. Oh, don't you even worry. We're getting there.
Can't wait.
I do, to your point though, I think we need to get, I think I need to, those of us who have been in the industry longer, need to be, as is reasonable, sustainable, more available, to
Mhm.
check in with somebody who's in their first couple of
Yeah.
years and to check in on them. I do think that there should be more like real, authentic monthly support systems, like real, bring your questions,
Mhm.
submit your questions so we actually talk about your questions. We don't
Exactly, and
decide
not
what
just
it
get into
is.
kind of like a bitch session about like,
Yep.
oh, this is crazy and I don't know what to do, but really like, okay, how do I write a formative assessment? Or what
Right.
is a formative
Right.
assessment?
Actually, speaking of, you talk about pedagogy, it probably took me 10 years to really understand formative v summative.
Uh-huh.
Like to really get it. I was like, they're both assessments though, aren't they? And then some people say, oh, the assessment at the end of that unit is actually a formative assessment. I was like, what to do with this?
No,
Yeah.
no. And I think depending on your resource, you can get even more confused about those two.
Totally.
That's a different podcast.
Totally. Totally. All right. So those are kind of some like entry questions. You're like rubbing your hands together because we're getting to the why. Oh my God.
Cannot wait.
So I'm gonna just, when I ask these questions, I'm gonna ground it in the Learning Riot's a central belief of the Learning Riot. It's kind of the call to action. So the first call to action here is we are the ones we have been waiting for, right? Um, how do we walk with gratitude, being fueled by curiosity and the courage to level up? So, walk us through what becoming the one you have been waiting for looks like. And how does this align with your why? And this, cue the something about the why that she already has said she's going to push back on.
I hate when people ask, what is your why? Because I need a job. I don't know. I remember when I first came into the district, we had 2 days of new teacher orientation, and the superintendent came around and asked everyone, "What's your name and why are you in the district?" And my why is no nights, no holidays, no weekends.
I love that.
That is my why.
Yes. As a mother, as a single mother at the time, like there's a lot of reasons why. That needs to be the why.
right? And so many people just looked at me with this drop jaw
Mm-hmm.
look on their face, like, I can't believe she just said that. But for me, I had worked in healthcare
Mm-hmm.
as a nurse in the neonatal intensive care unit. I was a surgical tech before that. Most of my time I spent in labor and delivery. I was recruited out of school to do open heart surgery and neurosurgery.
Mm.
I mean, I was worked in really, really intense fields.
Yep.
And
You had the grit, man. You had the skills.
and I knew that for me, not having the obligation of requirements in the evenings and on holidays and just always all 24 healthcare is a 24-hour business, so not having the 24-hour obligations was something I was really looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted more joy in my life.
Mm.
And so I really thought about this question a lot. Like, no nights, no holidays, no weekends is definitely like what came up. But behind that is trying to help young folks realize that it's really important to ground your why in joy because life is hard. Work is a huge part of your life. And usually, most people will not say, oh, yeah, my work is really easy. And it also provides everything I need. You have to have the grit, you have to build the things that are needed to get through work days when they're great and when they're hard. But you also need to have a job that you're passionate about and that brings you joy, even if it means not making the crazy amounts of money or whatever. I took a very, very multi tens of $1,000 pay cut to become a teacher. But when I was in the classroom that I was in before I got the job in that classroom, I knew that's where I was supposed to be.
Okay.
And so, yes, it's no nights, no holidays, no weekends, but it's because that's a place where I find passion, purpose, and joy.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. And is that and teaching young folks that it's okay that that's what's important.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
wherever you are.
I think you because I often talk about the why.
Mm-hmm.
I explained it earlier to some students today. You know, your why is what I've done with you. Like 10 years down the road, how would a student, when asked about your classroom, like, what's the point of this classroom?
Mm-hmm.
But I love that your why was, as is usually the case with a Kristina Lewis, there's a little bit of a sarcasm that comes out, like she's kind of pushing, or a lot, she's kind of pushing, but brings such game that like she gets to push. I think that, and the fact that you are, to many of those teachers, some of whom don't know you, never really saw you again after that new teacher orientation. Who knows who cares really, but what their perspective of you is. And then you are going to be one of the best teachers the district has seen. So you're welcome. I see it. I get to witness it all the time, which is amazing. But you are able to say, oh, I'm going to bring game and I'm not working nights, weekends, and I get to be with my family fully so that I come in here and I get to be fully alive.
Mm-hmm.
And your why, I almost feel like the why of the students of your space is, even though it's medical occupations, very connected with the medical world, like it really is build your skills so that you get to have a job you like that is reasonable in the hours, reasonable pay,
sustainable for your life,
sustainable,
and brings you some joy and fulfillment.
Great.
Not just, oh yeah, I get to change lives, or oh yeah, I get to do this, which are important, but also allows you to, like you said, lead a life that is also important.
Well, because you're trying to, I mean, if we're educating kids to all work toward a deeply, overwhelmingly passionate, I love every moment of my life, my job, and anything less is less, then that's not a good thing. Like, we need to not be building teachers, and that's what you're modeling all the time. Like, you have to model for them balance and boundaries to show them, that that's what their life can be. That your life actually can be this. And now it's going to take some grit and work for you to be able to lean in and build the skills.
Right.
Yeah. I think that it's also, you've heard me talk about, like, your job does not love you back. And so, like, how do you lean in and do a good job do an excellent job
Right.
with deep fulfillment and also not be over identified with it, which is so, I mean, we both have been there.
And
Right?
I think that was, one of the things from the question before about like looking back at your practice was something that you're not proud of. And it's something that like I am absolutely um career driven workaholic kind of personality. So I still struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle, but I recognize that I still struggle and try the best I can to find balance. Not easy for me.
So let's step back for a second because you, and by the way, I love that you push back on that. Why? Because it's also really important for us as people who facilitate like workshops, PD, to be really thoughtful about what we're doing and not doing. And like, did we see this on a YouTube video? I mean, this is
Right.
not, I don't want to poke fun at somebody who's done it, but because I've done it, and you probably have even done it in a
Sure.
classroom. But it's like, all right, what's the purpose of this question?
Mm-hmm.
And is it to fill time? Or is it to actually drive the next lesson or the next activity? And I
Right.
think that
With the
I think
connection
really
and
having me think about your why, that's really important, and also phrasing it something different because
yeah.
that term itself has become so like meaningless. But step back though, share with us how you have become the person you're waiting for.
I think
Let's dive into vulnerability here.
I think knowing my educational journey, I was always like a decent student who, I definitely sarcastic, sassy pants, but I did well in school. I had a bit of that perfectionism. Um, and I just kind of was like the middle of the road, fly under the radar kind of student.
Mhm.
So but I also had
Me too.
a ton going on at home. And I think because I was able to like just go to school and school was my place of the place where I felt safe and could get a lot of feeling of accomplishment
Yep.
and feeling of worth
Mm-hmm.
from grades and that kind of thing. Um, I wasn't, I didn't really have big connections necessarily with my teachers.
Mm-hmm.
People always like, oh, you all have, everyone has that one teacher that you
Yep.
remember that just really changed your life. I don't.
Neither do I.
I
And
literally,
actually, I have another friend of mine who also has that. So I think there's more of us that don't have it
yeah.
than want to say in those conversations when you're asked your why, or think back to that one person who changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did have a college professor when I was finally asked that when I started in Boston Public Schools.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back at K to 12, either they or sadly I was forgettable.
Yeah.
I felt through middle school and high school pretty much
Yeah.
that I almost didn't matter. Like I almost didn't even exist in the spaces,
Yeah.
which was an awful feeling.
For
Which I
sure.
want to make sure. How did you like? What would you have needed in that time period if you could like describe somebody or an adjective? Like, what was it that you needed in
I
that?
think I just needed someone to notice me.
Mm-hmm.
Notice me for me.
Yeah.
Not because I was doing anything extraordinary or I was doing anything um like behavioral, like you think we notice the kids that are really extraordinary or we notice the kids that really need help.
Yeah.
Not because of that, but just because they appreciated the fact that I was in their classroom
Yeah.
because I was in their classroom.
And their classroom community, and that's the difference between a class, like a group and a community,
Yep.
right? The community was different as a result of you being there.
Mm-hmm.
That you actually, even if you stayed pretty much silent the whole
Right.
day, it's still different because you're here.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think like that's something that I try really hard at is to make sure I know something
Mm-hmm.
a little special about every student in my class.
Take a second, share with us how do you do that? How do you do that? Is there like do you do it in very formalized ways? Is it informal? Like, if you don't mind.
Most of it's informal.
Yeah.
I feel like I think because of my nursing training,
Yeah.
I am always assessing. I'm assessing everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And because the patients that I've mostly dealt with are like 2 pounds, you have to be really observant.
Not really thin adults. That's
No.
more like pediatric. That's more like newborns, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
So, yeah, premature.
Or insanely small adults.
Yeah, premature infants.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's the tiny, for those patients, and really for all patients and all people, it's the tiniest things that make the difference,
Yeah.
that have the most
Yep.
impact. So I think because of that training, I notice things about kids.
Mm.
Like I have a student, for example, in my last adult ed class, and a student in my last class that they would write on their paper like, you've got this, for themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I would write like a little note back to them. Yeah, you do.
yeah.
So knowing, like, reading that, it's
And
like,
you're reinforcing their positive self-talk.
right.
So awesome.
And then also knowing that they need that self-talk in
Yeah.
order to calm their brain to get started. So
You're finding out so much about them in that moment that they live with anxiety, they
Mhm.
live with a self-doubt, they live with blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Oh my God.
So then
Really cool.
knowing that,
Huh.
knowing that, like, when I see them in the lab and they look blank, it's not because they don't know what they're doing.
No.
It's because their anxiety is through the roof and they can't access their thinking brain. So going over and talking to them, asking them questions about something that has nothing to do with what you're doing,
Yep. Smart.
maybe trying to get them to laugh a little bit,
Mm.
and then getting them back into their bodies and the doing piece.
If anybody's hearing a specific instructional move that is just identified, sometimes it's okay to check in with a kid about something completely nothing to do with what's freaking them out right now.
Mhm.
In fact, do that. Don't
Yep.
over reword and continue to stress them out.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's something I've had to learn with students.
Yeah.
But just, I think, just as an example, like finding little things, always listening.
Mm.
I think I have very, like, selective hearing, a little bit of hearing loss from being in operating rooms and stuff, but it always surprises me the things that I do hear.
Yeah.
And it's like the things that I do hear are important for me to hear.
Mhm.
It's like my brain knows when
Yeah.
to turn on, and I'm really grateful for that skill. And then I can talk to someone about that later, or
Yep.
notice the kid that's always drawing.
Do you, when you're in the moment, because you have, I'm in your class a lot, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of a lot of
lot
things
going
going
on.
on, a lot of clinics and small group work and flowing, and not only that you and your co-teacher, your co-teacher are literally managing a classroom that has the now, but then you always have kids doing clinics that they're trying to get caught up on, or
Mhm.
they miss this, or this one's
Working
spending
it.
school. I mean, like,
Right.
there's all these. It kind of
Chaos.
amazes me how many things are going on, but it's not chaos. So how do you, with all that's going on, and then on top of that, are noticing things about a kid? Do you remember, like, if so and so forth, Johnny B is presenting differently, like, his energy not sharing in 3 days at this point? Like, do you write it down? Is that something you remember? Like, how do you remember to check in with him later if you can't right now?
I don't know. I think for me, um, it's just the way that my brain works. And I think it does go back to being the person that I needed. I needed that person that noticed, okay, she hasn't raised her hand in 3 days,
Yeah.
and checked in with me at the end of
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
And I think my brain has built that through lack of that in my
Yeah,
own
of
life.
course. Of course.
And
Plus,
but it's
as a
because
nurse, I mean, on so many levels, you went to nursing before teaching, so you stepped into a role that is going to be deeply observant.
yeah. And
And
surgical tech before that, where you have to anticipate the surgeon's pretty much every move,
Yep.
because when they put their hand back for that instrument, you damn well better put the right friggin' instrument in their hand,
Stat.
or else they might throw it across the room and it lodges in the door. So
Have you had that specific thing happen?
I personally have not had that specific thing happen,
Yeah.
but I was in the building when that specific thing happened.
Gross. I
Yeah.
don't even have a better reaction. Now, should we all be able to work collaboratively together? Yes, but that reaction is
A little much.
gross. Like, it's
A little much.
disproportionate. So, in terms of, let's step outside of the classroom for a moment. In terms of being curious, creative, and courageous, because God knows I love an alliteration, how does your life outside of the classroom line up with those commitments? And/or where does it fall short?
I think the majority of my curiosity and courageousness has kind of been about teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where it kind of falls short in my everyday life. teaching, I'm in my 12th year, so I feel like there's so much to learn and I always want to grow in what I'm doing. So I think that's where like a lot of my curiosity comes from is like, oh, okay, well that worked really well. How do I recreate that in another unit? Or,
Mhm.
I hear something and I'm like, oh, I really want to try that. So I'm looking more into that. But I bought a home in 23 and I think that has sparked a lot of curiosity in my personal life
Cool.
because I've been trying to learn about, how to do certain home improvement things because we bought a fixer upper and it's
Mm.
been so fun. So curiosity about how to like build those kind of pieces. We did a garden this year for the first time.
Yeah.
So, throwing things in and finding out what happens and
Your garden,
yeah.
from which Michael and I enjoyed the zucchini that I had brought home
Okay,
from your
good.
garden. Yeah, yeah. Roasted it up. Roasted it up. We
Nice.
grilled it.
Okay, good.
Grilled. We've actually done two different ways now.
So
So yeah, so you're curious, but do you share, the ways that it lives up for you? Do you share that? Like, do you bring that into the classroom with kids sometimes? Do you talk to them about where, you know, where where your values line up, where they don't line up? Like, do you share?
for sure,
Are you vulnerable? Do you
all
allow
the time.
yourself to get vulnerable with them?
All the time. And I think that that's one of the things um, that we'll probably continue to talk about
Yeah.
over the next bit. But um, I think I am probably one of the most vulnerable with my students.
Yep.
Like if you have a spectrum of teachers of like, I tell you nothing and I tell you everything, I'm probably like even maybe below the I tell you everything, which maybe will get me in trouble one day, but hasn't really yet. Um, because I think
I don't think it will.
students,
I've watched you tell them things that often most wouldn't, and it's never inappropriate.
I
It's always right here on this side of appropriateness, but you're getting real with them.
right, and I really feel like students have to do this K through 12 thing. By law, we put students in schools,
Hmm.
and then expect teachers to be like robots,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of their formative years with people that they're not really being real with.
Right.
And then we expect them to be able to have like good, healthy emotional regulation and relationships right out of high
God,
school.
that's such a good, such a good point. Like we try to template the teacher as this impermeable,
Yeah.
invincible, whatever it is, and then expect our kids to be able to engage with a boss that has big emotions or navigate a colleague that has flare-ups or whatever it is.
Whatever it
So
is.
how do they have the skills if they're never engaging with somebody who's a real deal, is not a robot?
Right.
Huh.
And I
It's
just
really
think
good. You're having me think about that right now for the first time.
it's so important.
Yeah. It's also important. You and I have talked about having teachers that you don't like.
Yes.
And the teacher who's doing their good job, but you don't like them. You don't like their sense of humor. You don't like their whatever.
Mhm.
That teacher shouldn't have to change his or
Oh,
her their entire energy because of you.
right.
If they're doing their job,
Because that's just not the world.
right, right.
It's just not and it's never going to be. We were created as humans, and humans are not going to be, we're imperfect and we're not going to be the same.
Yeah, and I kind of want to say, yeah, we want some days, we want easefulness for
Yes.
sure. But if we all had easefulness and every single person and in every single interaction was perfectly
Boring.
right, exactly. Boring. Yeah, agreed,
So,
agreed.
yeah.
Next, kind of the overarching belief that I am diving in on here is so I want teachers, I want school systems to audit with courage. Like, look at your lessons, look at your systems, look at the way the school is happening, look at the way teachers are engaging with kids, like audit with purpose, and then innovate. Actually, audit with courage, innovate with purpose. Like, actually have the courage to say, this is not working. And we both work in a district, have worked in districts where there's some things going on that you're like, hey, look around. Like, am I the only one who sees this? Like,
This is
let's have
not
the courage
right.
to look at this and audit this. So,
Right.
but I also think do the work, share the lift, like you talked about earlier, and keep it light, right? Like,
Yeah.
bring some silliness in. So, sort of two sides of that same question. What do you do, like you specifically, what do you do? What would you need or what do you bring if you were responsible, and you are, for co-developing the critical hope? with your students. And let me take a second just so that we're all on the same page. Critical hope I kind of think of as three sort of steps. The first step is really see your kids. We can talk about it like speak wise, like
Mhm.
socioeconomic, political context of it,
Mhm.
but really see the kid and what
Yep.
their lived experience is. Build the skills.
Yep.
A lot of people stop at we see the kid maybe, but then we
Mhm.
don't build the skills. It's like build the skills
Mhm.
and then really recruit their agency, like recruit their responsibility to do something about it.
Yeah.
So, um, can you talk to us a little bit about how you build that with your students,
Yeah.
or how you want to continue developing that practice for
Yeah.
yourself?
I think that this is a huge strong suit for me.
Yes.
Um, because uh, I show up every day with the intent of being my best self, but also communicating with students that your best self is not the same every day.
Mm. I love that I've actually heard you literally say this to students. You're going to bring I want to like almost I want to say before you say it like you say to them, I'm going to bring you 100% of what I have today,
Yes.
which is going to look different maybe than tomorrow.
Because if I
So
had,
hot.
if I had a big fight at home with family members, or if we had a death in the family, or we're under financial strain or whatever that is, and I got to go to work the next day, half of my or some of my head is somewhere else, my thinking is somewhere else. I'm going to give you the best of what I can bring to you that day,
Yeah.
and you guys, I expect the same.
Great.
And I think with the critical hope piece, it's so much for me about showing up as the best of what I have that day
Yep.
and bringing them to do the same
Yep.
and communicating about that, having really open lines of communication about, guys, I am not great. I'm not doing great today.
Yep.
So I need a little bit of grace.
Yep.
And if you're not doing great, I want you to tell me that too.
That's a second time, maybe third time you use the phrase grace.
Yeah.
So important. And grace doesn't mean you don't show up.
Grace doesn't mean you don't show up. Grace does not mean you're going to get the best grade
Right.
because you only put in 50% of work because 50% was your best that day. Grace doesn't mean you get a pass. Grace means I am still going to care about you,
Mm-hmm.
and I am still going to cheer you on, and I'm going to take time out of the day to help you process stuff maybe, but there's still going to be an expectation that the expectation is the expectation.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, because whether it's nursing, whether it's medical, whether it's teaching,
doesn't matter.
the patient, the student, they deserve to have an expectation met, to
Right.
feel safe, to feel like they're able to learn, able to heal.
Right.
I really, I also think that I think by showing, I think it's so important for teachers to be sharing where they're at. And I would even not fabricate. I wasn't like lying to the kids, but if there was something that happened the day before where
Mhm.
a student was struggling with something or something happened the day
Mhm.
before that I wanted us as a class to be thinking about today
Mhm.
and doing better, I would always start my morning meeting with me sharing out how I'm working on that skill in my life
Yeah.
and sometimes failing,
Yeah.
right? And
Or strategies that you've used that have worked or not worked.
exactly. And sometimes it's a fully fleshed, I've gotten better at it and it was a 5 years ago, I'm reflecting on it. Or
Mhm.
sometimes it's a last night I said some really hurtful things to my husband and da 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 da. Like I got really really honest, and that invited them into that work. So I love the idea that you're recruiting them into saying you're going to show. It's freaking weird if you show up at 100% of your 100% every single day. That's
It's
not doable, and that's
impossible.
absolutely the road to burnout.
Very quickly.
But I'm going to ask you to show up even when you're at 50% and know that you can do it, and you're like explicitly showing them
Mm.
that you get to show. I worked with a teacher, a beautiful educator who struggled with depression, and I remember, and I've struggled with depression, but I was kind of in a better space at this one. We sort of like staggered, right? I
Mhm.
was kind of coming out of that
Yep.
space for myself, and he was having a hard time. So he was having a hard enough time that he took leave from he was a professor, college professor. He took leave for a semester because he was really really struggling and needed to get meds, needed to get all sort of things in
Yeah.
place. So
Figure
I
some
was
stuff out.
talking with him coming back the next semester, and he came back and he felt like he was phoning it in. He felt like he wasn't giving his kids the same. And first of all, I said, I'm sure that your 100% on other semesters is well above what many people are bringing in there. And maybe your students need to see you show up in depression, that they need to see you show up not able to bring that full energized kinesthetic whatever it is that you were able to do, but you're still showing up.
Yeah.
And you're doing that, and I think it's so important.
Deliver.
So like they need to see a 50%. Going back to your boss, your students need to see that not every teacher is going to be doing backflips for you. In fact, I sometimes was doing too much of that kind of stuff and setting my kids up to be failing a year or two later when they went to high school, when high school teachers were not necessarily going to be doing that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And I it's life. And I think
Mm.
like going back to the why piece, like I want my students to leave my classroom knowing enough about themselves that they can do life better than I was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
To not have the expectation for themselves that that they have to be perfect.
Right.
That they're showing up, that they're continuing to show up, that them learning how to take care of themselves or say no or whatever it is, that's what is going to help you find the sweet spot in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to help you find the joy
Mm-hmm.
so much faster than I was able to.
Yep. Yep. So taking it like sort of taking it up or sort of taking it loose a little bit. So we know that skill, so important.
Yeah.
Skill that's not going to be there day one.
Right.
If I am 20 years in, 25 years into teaching, still figuring it out, and somebody comes in, I was once told that by the way, I was sitting there stressing out, freaking out 3 months into teaching. And I remember a teacher came down the hall and said, "Oh, wait, you thought something that I've been working on for 30 years, you're going to get it in the first 3 months? You're being an asshole."
Yeah.
And it starts like a good piece of, I was like, you're so right. Like there's an arrogance to me beating myself up 3 months in that I'm not doing the job. It's like, dude, it takes people lifetimes to become these master teachers.
So true.
So skill's huge. Curiosity is really huge.
Mm-hmm.
But that missing thing that I sometimes see, that sense of humor, that silliness.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear a little bit about how silliness or sense of humor plays with those other pieces in your classroom or in your experience. Like, talk to us about like fun silliness. Like, how does that play itself out for you, and why does it play itself out?
I was gonna talk about balls.
I love it. Balls are good. Love me some balls. Okay.
So, and this is the reaction that we usually have in the classroom too. So it's perfect because balls are funny. Penises and balls are funny. So we have this really incredible system that we use called anatomy and clay.
They're gonna be like, we have this incredible system. It's called the reproductive system with penises and balls. Okay, come. Listen, I'm focused. Here we go.
I'm not. So, this incredible system called anatomy and clay that uses clay to build the body, to learn about the body. Yep. And they have a saying that
so hands-on, like actually
like
actual
molding,
clay.
Yeah, actual modeling clay.
Yep.
That you are molding into muscles, you're molding into organs, you're molding into blood vessels or nerves, or when we create the brain, lymphatic system, yep. All of it. Create
a three-dimensional, kinesthetic, hands-on knowing of what this is. And then just so everybody can understand this, it's also color, like I've seen it.
Yeah.
And it is color coded. Like there's all these different ways to manipulate it. So it's brilliant. It's expensive, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but it's not insane. I've spent money on way stupider things. like really dumb stuff.
Yep, me too.
In the thought that it was gonna be awesome.